All right, good evening or good afternoon. Today we'll be looking at a lesson entitled The Little Horns of Daniel 7 and 8. And of course, this lesson is written by me, and it's part of the Indigenous Israelite Cultural Center educational process. This lesson is extremely important, so we want to know some reasons as to why we're doing this lesson on Daniel 8. One of the first reasons is that a thorough understanding of Daniel 8 solidifies the fact that the events of Daniel 7 are prophetic and do not overlap with Daniel 8. It gives us a very critical understanding of that because there's so much information on these two chapters, and many of that information that is available to the public up to this point is in error, extreme error. Some of it is good, but a lot of it is in error, and you have to be careful what you are reading or learning. Another reason is that a thorough understanding of Daniel 8 reveals the coming of another little horn that will persecute the people of the Most High for a specified period allowed by him. So if you're confused as to who these two little horns are, there are people out here teaching that both of these little horns are in the past, or both of them are yet to be revealed. However, you're going to learn in this lesson that one is in the past and another is yet to be revealed. The next thing is that in all my research, I have yet to find any study of Daniel 8 that properly addresses the 2,300 missed sacrifices that led to the cleaning of the Second Temple after exactly 1,150 evening and mornings had passed. So no study I've ever found has properly addressed that 2,300 missed sacrifices. In the past, my first introduction to Daniel 8, I was a Seventh-day Adventist, and they totally got this information in error, but that was the first information I received, and I believed it for quite a long time until I found out a lot of things that Ellen White was teaching, and a lot of her prophecies were in error. And we're going to learn today why not only is their message on Daniel 8 incorrect, but a lot of other people's message on Daniel 8 is incorrect. And once again, this is not a bashing session, but it is an awakening to the truth. And sometimes to hear the truth hurts, and that's just a fact. The last reason, but not of course not the least reason, and not the only last reason, is that it is to awaken all intentional and unintentional false teachers of Daniel 8 that the truth will be revealed in spite of their efforts to the contrary. The other thing I'd like to say is that most of these lessons that we're doing on this particular channel can be quite lengthy and have a lot of content. However, you as the viewer or you as the hearer, once these lessons are recorded as well as written, and you can get the written form off of the internet on the website, you can break these lessons up into sections. You can listen to it 15 minutes when you have time, and then pick it up where you leave off, go back into your history and pick up where you left off until you can hear the whole lesson, or you can sit through the entire lesson. However, I cannot shorten these lessons because the content is too deep for stopping and starting. But you can do that on your own and in your spare time. So with that, we're going to get into the actual lesson. Oh, before we get into that, I need to give you some background information once again. I always give background information for the sake of you having a better pictorial image of what's being the words that you see on the screen. This image we've seen before in previous lessons. However, I've made some changes to it because of the information we're dealing with in Daniel 8. Within this image, it's taken from Daniel 2. That's the dream of Nebuchadnezzar where he had this great statue. We call the statue the Most High's hourglass. It's telling us where we are in time and how close we are to the end of time based on the positions or based on the kingdoms that exist at their relevant moment. We know that the first three kingdoms, the kingdom of gold, the kingdom of silver, and the kingdom of brass, were all kingdoms that were related or from the offspring of Noah. And all of these kingdoms, in one way or another, affected the Israelites after their kingdom fell in 587 BCE. The Babylonians affected them first. They were the kingdom of gold. And then the Medo-Persians came in. They allowed the Israelites to go back home and rebuild a second temple. And from another lesson, we learned it was not the kings of the Medo-Persians that gave the Israelites any trouble, but it was always the other people living in the land that was causing the Israelites all their problems. And then the third kingdom, which is the kingdom of brass, is the kingdom of Greece. And Daniel chapter 8 only deals with the second kingdom, which is the Medo-Persian kingdom, and the Greek kingdom until its end. Daniel chapter 8 is also a second vision of Daniel. If you look to the far right, Daniel received this vision in about 551 BCE within the third year of Belshazzar when he was still living in Babylon. Daniel got a vision of what the next two kingdoms that were going to come about that was going to affect the Israelites. And after those two kingdoms had their time in history, which we're going to deal with that today, exactly what the Greeks did, we're going to learn that the Hasmonean dynasty came up, and that was a time when Israel gained her independence. That's when the temple got cleansed. And sometime after the Hasmonean dynasty was established, Israel had her independence, although a lot of her independence was based on treaties she had with other nations, which was totally against the laws of the Most High. But she did have her independence, and she could reinstitute the sacrifice system after that 2,300 missed sacrifices. And the last thing I want to bring out that I did make a change on, and we're dealing with the seed of the serpent here, and we're under the seed of the serpent today. Anyone alive today is being affected by the seed of the serpent of Genesis 3:15. We've already been under the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, and the Greek Empire, and now we're under this kingdom that's constantly changing its name throughout time. When they originally came in, they called themselves the Romans, but I've been doing some research. You can't really find in the King James Version, and when I say King James Version, I'm only dealing with the Tanakh, or what most people call the Old Testament. You cannot find the word Romans anywhere in the Tanakh. I'm not dealing with the New Testament. We went over another lesson. We understand that it's a false book, so we don't want to give that book any credit. But I did come across the word Horites. So this will be another lesson yet future, that the Horites were the Romans, and they are all the people that are ruling the world today. They are Horites. You can find them in the book of Genesis. They are not of the seed of Noah, and they are a people that Esau was supposed to conquer, but Esau never did. He conquered a lot of them, but he intermarried with a lot of them as well, and allowed a lot of them to live in that respect. But that was only in Mount Seir. The Horites were all over the world, living in caves during most of the time when the children of Noah were populating the world. They took the high ground, lived in caves, because the Most High had divided the land up for the children of Noah. The land was not for anyone else but the children of Noah. So these other beings or creatures that looked human-like lived in caves. But eventually they came out of those caves, and now they're ruling the world. And we'll deal with that partially in this lesson, and that's the first vision of Daniel from Daniel 7. And we're going to learn that they're going to have a horn to come up out of their kingdom that's going to persecute the kingdom of God, just like the Greek kingdom did in days of old. Once again, Daniel 8, you see in Daniel 8, there's a vision of a ram and a he-goat. We learned that the ram is Medo-Persia and the he-goat is Greece. So Daniel 8 only deals with these two kingdoms. It does not deal with the fourth kingdom. So it only deals with kingdom 2 and kingdom 3. Then it focuses mostly on kingdom 3, which is the Greek empire. And we know that when the Greek empire conquered the Medo-Persian empire, it was done with Alexander. Alexander was the first king of Greece to conquer the Medo-Persian empire, and he took over their realm. In the height of his influence or his power, he died. His successors, which were generals mostly, began to fight amongst themselves to get control of the kingdom, and eventually 4 generals took over his kingdom and divided it up. And their division was also toward the 4 winds, north, south, east, and west. So we're going to mostly deal with what happened to the eastern part of that empire, which we're going to learn was the Seleucid kings. And from them came forth a horn that began to persecute. When I say a horn, I mean a king that began to persecute the people of the Most High. We're going to learn that from the time that the Medo-Persians allowed the Israelites to go back home and build their temple, all the way up to the time the king Antiochus IV comes in, this Greek king, was been over like almost a 200-year span. The Israelites were doing their sacrificial system. They were carrying on their sacrificial ceremonies without interruption. But when that king came in, he put a stop to it. And he was the first king to do such. And he did it for exactly 1,150 days as prophesied. We got to remember, Daniel wrote all these things before they actually happened. And that's amazing. All right? Now, in understanding the scriptures, we learn another lesson that you have to understand that to calculate time, the Most High told Adam that let the lights in the firmament, use the lights in the firmament to divide day from night, and let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years. So time is to be calculated using the sun and the moon. The sun gives us our daily count, and the moon gives us our monthly count. But today, what are we using? We're using calendars on a wall. We're using our watches, our phones, and none of these instruments are in line with the creation calendar that Most High gave Adam. All right, now in the Adamic calendar, we learned that a month was exactly 30 days long based on the cycles of the moon and based on how many sunrises and sunsets. We know from the flood that it started on the 17th day of the 2nd month, and it ended on the 7th day, or the ark rested on the 7th day of the 17th month, and that there were exactly 150 days, or what we call 5 months in between that time. See there, 150 days, 5 months. If you take 150 divided by 5, you get 30 days per month. 30 days times 12 is what? 360 days per year. But anybody alive today know that our year is no longer 360 days, is it? At least they don't teach you that in school, do they? No, they do not. They tell you that a year now is 365 days. So something has happened. I'm going to learn why this is. All right, now when Antiochus comes about, he stops the evening and morning sacrifices that were occurring for a period of for 1,150 days. In other words, they had to do 2,300 sacrifices, one in the evening and one in the morning. So it was one sacrifice in the morning and one sacrifice in the evening. So if you're doing 2 sacrifices a day and you miss 2,300 of them, that means 1,150 days had passed, right? And that what Antiochus did was the Israelites, let me show y'all the scripture here first before we get into this. The Israelites were to, by the commandment of the Most High, were to do a sacrifice, one in the morning and one in the evening. Look at this law. This was a law of the Most High concerning what they were to do with the sanctuary and their sacrifices. It says, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel and say unto them, my offering and my bread for my sacrifice made by fire, for a sweet savor unto me. Ye shall observe to offer unto me in their due season. That means at the right time or when I'm requesting it. And thou shalt say unto them, this is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto the Lord. Now notice that this offering is made by fire. Now remember those words, because when we get into the lesson, there's going to be a man's name that comes up, and we're going to learn what that man meant, how that man had 2 names and what it really meant. 2 lambs of the first year without spot, day by what? Day, for a continual burnt offering. So when you say something is to be continual, when is it supposed to stop? It's never supposed to stop. And they were supposed to do it day by day. It says, 1 lamb shalt thou offer in the morning, and the other lamb shalt thou offer when? At even. So they were to do 2 sacrifices a day upon this altar for the Most High. But Antiochus, once the second temple got built, this is what he put a stop to for 1,150 days. This commandment right here. All right, so I just want to show you that. And we'll come back to this another thing here later. We're going to go back into the slides. So Antiochus put a stop to that commandment. What he did was he took over the sanctuary area and sacrificed a pig on the Most High's altar. And everybody knows that an Israelite knows that a pig is what? An unclean animal. So in doing so, he desecrated the altar that belonged to the Most High and dedicated that altar to his God. The Israelites at that moment could no longer sacrifice the lamb upon that altar, and he prohibited them, or he did not allow them to do so for an 1,150-day period until they could regain control of the sanctuary. Now remember, Daniel's seeing all this while he's living in Babylon, and there is no Greek Empire at the time. Amazing, right? So he sacrifices a pig upon the altar, and then he makes a decree that anyone serves any god but his God will be put to death. And he gave them he said, and this law is to take effect in the next 10 days. So for 10 days, they missed the morning and evening sacrifices right there. Then on the 10th day, the law went into effect, and they took some women who did not want to obey this king. They had their children circumcised according to the law of Moses and to the law of the Most High. And they took those women and they sacrificed those women on the same altar that he sacrificed that pig on. These human sacrifices went on for an additional 1,140 days. Is how you get the number 1,150. All right? When you take 1,140 and you divide 360 in it, which is a biblical or the Adamic calendar year, you get 38 months. Normally, or 3 years. We're going to learn that this went on for exactly 3 years. Most people know that 3 years is how many months? 36 months, right? But if it's 38 months, then something must have happened. Remember, we learned that after the first temple got destroyed, that a year was lengthened. This is proof of that. This is proof that the Most High delayed the Abib observance, that during this time, 2 of those years had 13 months in them. All right? And the altar was not cleansed until after exactly 1150 days were over, and the Levite priests got control of the temple, and they re-cleansed the sanctuary and gained control. We'll get into this more in the lesson. And last but not least, after they regained the temple in around 164, about 30 years later or so, they established the Hasmonean dynasty, and the Levite priests were ruling the kingdom, and of course, the sacrificial system was reinstituted. And this is what it says, and I need y'all to look over here to the left. It says, and such as do wickedly against the covenant. What covenant? The covenant that the Most High gave to Moses and to the people of Israel. Shall he corrupt by flatteries? And who is this he? That's Antiochus. In other words, Antiochus will reward you if you don't do what the Most High says. That's what he's talking about. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword. So during that 1150-day period, many people had to give their lives because they did not want to do what their king said. He was trying to force them to eat pork. They couldn't do their sacrifices. Anything that they were not supposed to do, he told them they had to do it. And when he put them to the test, if they didn't do it, they was killed during this time. It says, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many. People was also teaching many about, hey, look, don't go that route. That's not the way to go. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, fire. They were being burned. By captivity, they was being imprisoned. And by spoil, everything was being taken from them. How many days? Many days. And that's exactly 1150 days to be exact. And they shall, now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help, which means the Most High is going to give them some sort of help during this time. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. Sometimes when some people are hanging around good people, knowing that they themselves are not good, and they're flattering you for protection, but in reality, their hearts are rotten to the core, So that's what it's talking about here. It says, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge them and to make them white. This statement here is very important. It's saying that during this 1150-day period, when the Israelites are banned from having their sacrificial services done and having any feast days done or being able to obey the Most High, and there's a law being established that if you serve any God but my God, I'm going to put you to death. Anybody who gave their life at that time, the scripture says that this was done to purge them and to make them what? White. Which means that if they give their lives, if you die as a martyr, you have an automatic door open for you when the Most High establishes his kingdom. There's no greater thing that a man can do than to lay down his life for the Most High. You have passed the ultimate test. Now I'm telling you that test is coming back when the second little horn appears in the future. Okay? You lay your life down, the Most High has you written in a book. And that's what Daniel's talking about. Even till the time of the end, because it is yet for the time appointed. Now go to the right-hand side. It says, while the Hasmonean dynasty effectively lost its true independence to the Roman Republic earlier in 63 BCE under General Pompey, the Hasmonean family continued to hold subordinate power until Herod, the Edomite kingdom, final victory when he captured Jerusalem. The Herodian dynasty lasted through the destruction of the Zerubbabel temple. So when the Hasmonean dynasty fell, there was another Edomite dynasty that continued up to the destruction of the temple. Now, the Edomites were not Israelites. The Israelites had also been instructed that they could not have a king over them that was not of their brother. So during the time when the Edomites were in league with the Romans, a lot of the Israelites were of disdain for the Edomites because they were their kings at that time, and that was against the Most High's wishes or law. Let's put it that way. All right. So, and we need to remember, and who did they eat? And who did the Edomites? Who were they supposed to conquer in the beginning? The Horites, the same people they were in league with when they became kings of Israel. All right. But that's another study. We're going to get into that later. And like I said, these lessons are not to offend anyone, but we have to know the truth because the lies have had at least a 1,500-year head start on this information. All right, so now we're going to get into the actual lesson. All right, the little horns of Daniel 7 and 8. Today, there are those who are of Judaic influence that discredit Daniel as being a prophet of the Most High. They do not include his writings within the prophet section of the modern-day Tanakh. Those of such ideology are heavily influenced by the Talmud, which is not an official publication of the Most High. Let me show y'all something about the Talmud before I go any further, because this confused me for a while when I was learning things about the when I heard certain people quote the, I'm on quote the Talmud. All right, go here. I want to show y'all when the Talmud was written. And I took this off, this is AI. I just asked AI a simple question. When was the Talmud written, right? I'm saying that it's not an official publication of the Most High. Let's find out if it is. The Talmud was written and compiled over a span of several centuries, primarily between the 3rd and 6th century CE. Oh, that's after the temple was destroyed. Remember, the temple was destroyed in 70 CE, but this was the 3rd and 6th century CE. And remember, by 135 CE, no native-born Israelites could live in the land. So who's writing this book? The Horites. Okay? So if you want to follow the Talmud, then you're following the words of the Edomites and the Horites. Prior to being written, this extensive collection of Jewish law and tradition existed as an oral tradition that was passed down through generations. The Talmud is actually a combination of two distinct texts, the Mishnah and the Gemara. The writing and compilation took place in 2 stages. The Mishnah, 200 CE. Wait a minute. The temple was gone. The temple was destroyed by the Horites or the Romans in 70 CE. So why are they concerned with writing a book? You totally wiped out all the people of the book. Now you want to write a book? It says the first layer primarily consists of Jewish laws and was compiled in Hebrew in Israel by Rabbi Judah of Prince. Now, could he have been a real Israelite? All Israelites were banned after 135 CE. They were sold into slavery. They couldn't live in their land. They couldn't practice any of their laws. They were totally outlawed. So who is this rabbi? Let us look at the second book, second portion, the Gemara, the 3rd century and 6th century CE. This larger secondary layer consists of rabbinic commentaries, debates, and discussions on the Mishnah. It is recorded in both Hebrew and Aramaic. There are 2 major versions of the Talmud, which are developed in different locations and finalized at slightly different times. The Jerusalem or Palestinian Talmud, compiled by scholars in Israel, is the version. This version is finalized around the 4th and early century CE. Remember, the temple was destroyed at this time. No one could practice the Most High's laws. There has not been a temple of the Most High on planet Earth or on the earth anywhere since 70 CE. And his people have been scattered all over the world since that time. So who's putting this book together? This is the Babylonian Talmud, compiled by scholars in Babylonian, which is modern-day Iraq. This version was finalized around 500 CE, about 400 years after the temple was destroyed, with minor editorial additions and clarifications continuing into the 6th and 7th centuries. The Babylonian Talmud is a more comprehensive and widely studied of the two. These are the people who practice Judaism. They're the ones that use these books. Judaism has nothing to do with the Tanakh. It does not even believe in the prophets. It believes in the Talmud. And that's why it is not an official publication of the Most High. The Most High has commanded his people, seek ye out of the book of the Lord, which is the Torah, and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. For my mouth it has commanded, and his spirit it has gathered them. Based on the writings within the Torah, Daniel was a prophet for the Most High has declared. Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak to him in a dream. Therefore, those who think Daniel not to be a prophet, a testimony concerning him and his own, hear his words. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. And in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. These 2 visions and or dreams qualified Daniel as a prophet based on the words of the Torah, and are substantiated by one witness and Daniel himself. Daniel received both visions within the 70-year desolation period for the children of Israel that commenced with the destruction of the Solomon temple in 587 BCE. Both visions disclose the coming of a little horn that will persecute the people of the Most High sometime after the 70-year desolation period has ended. The 70-year desolation period ended in 516 BCE, when the Zerubbabel temple was completed in Jerusalem, and the people of the Most High could once again reestablish the priesthood to fully reinstate the Most High sacrificial system and feast days. The Zerubbabel temple stood for 586 years, and from 516 to 70 CE, from 516 to 70 CE, until it too was destroyed. Since 70 CE, there has been no temple of the Most High anywhere on earth, and Jerusalem has been in desolation ever since, without a Levitical priesthood, sacrifices, or true feast days. The little horn of Daniel 8 worked his craft within the time frame of the Zerubbabel temple period, and the little horn of Daniel 7 will work his craft during the time of Jacob's trouble. Although these 2 visions were seen by him just 2 years apart, the actual fulfillment of events is separated by several millennia. He saw these 2 visions 2 years apart, but the actual events that are to take place are thousands of years apart. Thousands of years. The second vision of Daniel, the little horn of Daniel 8. And I saw in a night vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Susan in the palace, which is in the province of Edom. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler, that means hatred or anger against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. but he cast him down to the ground, and he stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. Whenever you see those words, the pleasant land, that's referring to the land, the promised land, or where the Israelites live, and especially Jerusalem. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. When you see the host of the stars to the ground, that's talking about the Israelites, not actual literal stars that are in the heaven. Yea, he magnified himself, even to the prince of the host. And by him, the daily sacrifice was taken away. What daily sacrifice? Remember the commandment we just read to you in Numbers? And the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto a certain saint, these are actually two angels talking, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation? Now notice when he says one saint to a certain saint, notice Daniel does not name these angels. I told you angels cannot reveal their names. And the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, now that should be actually unto 2,300 sacrifices, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And we're going to get into why that should be sanctuaries, but it's kind of like when they say days, it's kind of misleads you into what's really been said here. All right, so that was the whole entirety of Daniel 8 from verses 2 through 14. We're going to get into what this angel is going to explain in Daniel. It says the angel is commanded to give understanding of the second vision. And it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, we know no angel is going to reveal the other angel's name. So actually what's being said here is man of war. The translators translated the words man of war to the word Gabriel. The word Hebrew word Gabriel means man of war. Make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood. And when he came, I was afraid, and fear fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep, on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of indignation. For at the time appointed, the end shall be. Now he's going to tell him who these animals are. The ram which thou sawest, having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. Who's going to debate that? He's giving us the answer. Now remember why Daniel's getting this answer. He's living in Babylon. The Median Persian Empire is not in existence yet. It has not conquered Babylon yet. This angel is telling Daniel something that's going to happen in the future. And the rough he-goat is the king of Greece. So he's telling you that it's the kingdom of Greece. Neither one of these kingdoms are in existence yet. Not to a point where they can affect anybody. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up, for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and shall practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes. That's going to be the high priest. but he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and morning, which was told thee, is true. Therefore, shut up the vision, for it shall be for many days. Now, notice when the angels explain it to Daniel, he says the vision of the what? Evenings and mornings. So the angel himself clarifies what those days are, what those days mean. Evening and morning what? Sacrifices. He says that count, that number that you heard, that 2,300 evening and mornings, that's going to be true. No one can deny that. That's what that angel's saying. Now remember, he's telling Daniel this while he's in Babylon. There is no Medo-Persian Empire. There is no Greek Empire. But it comes true. The angel's words fulfilled concerning the ram came in 539 to 331. The Medo-Persian Empire conquered Babylon in 539. Remember, Daniel had that vision around 551 or 553. Okay? The Medo-Persian Empire conquered Babylon in 539, which was 12 years after Daniel had the vision in 551. The Medo-Persian Empire lasted for about 208 years, dominating Israel's homeland and many other nations, as did the Babylonians before them. The Medo-Persian Empire is the kingdom of silver in the statue of Nebuchadnezzar's dream seen in Daniel 2. Little did Daniel know, just 12 short years after receiving this vision during the reign of Belshazzar, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, that he would live to see the fall of Babylon mentioned in Daniel 5. The Babylonian Empire fell during a night of feasting after a mysterious hand wrote on the wall of the king's palace. And in that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And Darius, the Median, took the throne, being about 62 years old. Therefore, the Medes are represented as one of the horns on the ram seen in Daniel's vision, just as the angel declared. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. So you can see, he was a Mede. The angel said that ram represented what? The Medes and the Persians. 1 year later, the Persian king Cyrus issued a decree in 538, allowing the Israelites to return home to build another temple in Jerusalem. When Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians, it put a temporary end to all the temple services and feast days in that city. The Cyrus decree allowed the Israelites the opportunity to reestablish both the temple services and the feast days. Cyrus even gave back all the stolen items that the Babylonians had removed from the first temple. Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and have charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Also Cyrus the king brought forth the vessels of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought forth out of Jerusalem, and had put them in the house of his gods. Even those did Cyrus king of Persia bring forth by the hand of Meredith, the treasurer, and numbered them unto Sheshbazzar, Zerubbabel, the prince of Judah. When the Israelites returned from exile, they built an altar and immediately began reinstating the morning and evening sacrifices commanded by the Most High in Jerusalem. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel, and say unto them, my offering and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire, for a sweet savor unto me, shall ye observe to offer unto me in their due season. And thou shalt say unto them, this is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto the Lord, 2 lambs of the first year, without spot, day by day, for a continual burnt offering. 1 lamb shalt thou offer in the morning, and the other lamb shalt thou offer at even. And a 10th part of the ephah of flour for meat offering, mingled with a 4th part of a hin of beaten oil. It is a continual, meaning perpetual burnt offering, which was ordained in Mount Sinai for a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto the Most High, unto the Lord. So this was to go on forever. And guess what? It's still supposed to be going on today. But why we can't do it today? Because we don't have our temple, right? We don't have our temple. Since the destruction of the first temple, no morning and evening sacrifices had been performed in Jerusalem for about 50 years. However, once these sacrifices made by fire were reinstated in Jerusalem, they were to continue without interruption as commanded by the Most High. Incidentally, the Persian name for Zerubbabel is Sheshbazzar, meaning worshiper of fire, because it was him who was, as the new governor of Judah, assured these offerings by fire were carried out twice a day upon their return. That's why they called him that name, worshiper of fire, because he started those sacrifices in the end. Then stood up Jeshua, the son of Josedek, and his brethren the priests, and Zerubbabel, the son of Seleucid, or Shilfiel, his brethren, and builded the altar of God of Israel to offer burnt offerings thereon, as it is written in the law of Moses, the man of God. And they set the altar upon its bases, for fear was upon them because of the people of those countries, and they offered burnt offerings thereon unto the Lord, evening, burnt offering, morning and evening. Even burnt offering, morning and evening. So they were doing it twice a day again. These morning and evening sacrifices will continue uninterrupted until the coming of a little horn that will desecrate the altar which they are performed, upon which they are performed. This desecration would prevent the priest from performing a total of 2,300 sacrifices for an 1,150-day period. Who is this little horn? Who is this little horn that would cause this temporary pause in the Most High's mandated twice-a-day sacrifice? The angel's words fulfilled concerning the goat. All right, and that is not the greatest of all time. All right. The Greek Empire conquered the Medo-Persian Empire in 331 BCE and lasted a period of about 167 years. The Greek Empire became the kingdom of brass mentioned in Nebuchadnezzar's statue, dream, seen in Daniel 2. The Medo-Persian Empire did not fall because its kings disrespected the Most High and his people, but rather because they warred against a nation that could exact a revenge. And that nation was the nation of Greece. The Greek Empire eventually took over all the territories formerly under the control of the Medo-Persian Empire and spread their influence and culture throughout the land. It was King Alexander, the Great Horn, who conquered the Medo-Persian Empire. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came up out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greeks. And that angel said he would be that first king. And many made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. However, in the height of his success, he died without a definite successor, as foretold by the angel. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Without a definite successor, Alexander's generals began to fight for control of the empire. Eventually, 4 dominant generals emerged, and each became king over the region under their control. These 4 generals and their posterity are the 4 horns that divide the Great Horn's empire. Incidentally, the 4 horns divided the Greek Empire with respect to Jerusalem toward the 4 winds of heaven, north, south, east, and west. However, eventually it was the king of the east or the Seleucid kings that obtained final control over Jerusalem when this little horn appears. Starting around 175 BCE, a Seleucid king emerged that would change the policy of how the Greeks would interact with the Israelites. For almost 371 years, the daily sacrifices by fire have been performed in Jerusalem without interruption upon the designated altar. It was also during this time that many of the Israelites began to align themselves with the heathen practices of the Greeks and multiply sin in the land of their fathers. This is what is meant by the statement, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressions are come to a full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sinners shall stand up. Israelites need to understand your wickedness brings about more wickedness from others and brings about persecution upon those who desire to live righteous. And we need to understand that. The king was none other than Antiochus IV, the new king of Jerusalem, who began to reign in 175 BCE. He's going to be that little horn. The Seleucid king Antiochus IV Epiphanes is the little horn. He's that first little horn. Daniel 11, verses 2 through 35, starts with the reign of Cyrus the Persian and ends with Antiochus IV Epiphanes the Greek. And this information can be substantiated with historical evidence, although we're not going to go over all that right here. The Greek culture was so intriguing to many of the Israelites that it caused many of them to abandon their own culture. Is that not what the Israelites are doing today because we're intrigued by Roman culture or Horite culture? Yes, we are. Don't we keep Halloween and Easter and all these Horite holidays? Yes, we do. They don't. You can't find this stuff in the scriptures. These were the transgressors that were come to a full. In the latter part of the Greek Empire, when King Antiochus IV Epiphanes the Greek began to persecute the obedient Israelites in Jerusalem and in other places of his realm. This persecuting Greek king commenced his war in the year 167 BCE against the people of the Most High, and his temple exactly 420 years after the destruction of Solomon's temple. It was during his reign that the temple services were interrupted for exactly a 3-year period in which no evening and morning sacrifices could be performed by any Israelite priest. Antiochus IV Epiphanes reigned from 175 to 164, and the book of Maccabees records his ascension into power. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days there went out of Israel wicked men. See how these wicked men of Israel did this? Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. It was these transgressors of the covenant that brought about the punishment that was prophesied by the angel in Daniel 8:23. The reason Antiochus IV Epiphanes is viewed as the little horn is because he is the first king to change the policy of how the Greeks interacted with true indigenous Israelites. Daniel gives further explanation of the little horn. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably, and shall obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken. Yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. And he shall enter peacefully even upon the fattest places of the province. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, He's the one that changed the policy, nor his father's fathers. And he shall scatter among them the prey, the spoil, and the riches. And he shall forecast his devices against strongholds, even for a time. An arm shall stand up in his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. What Israelites need to understand is where we get all our power from is the Most High sanctuary. And because we have no sanctuary today, we have no power today. And shall take away the daily sacrifice, and shall pollute, and shall place, and they shall place the abomination that make desolate, and shall do, and such as do wickedly against the covenant, shall he corrupt by flatteries. Notice you get rewarded for doing what he wants. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, and by captivity, and by spoil many days. And when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge them, and to make them white. You can't do anything better than to be a martyr for the Most High, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. Now, the Most High allowed us to learn this lesson so that we know in the future when another little horn appears, giving your life what it means to him, you will be made white, which means you will be made pure. All your sins will be forgiven at that point. And when everybody else is going through the wilderness to be tested and tried, you already know you got a sure way in. Okay? But that's further in the lesson. Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes makes a decree. Once Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth desecrated the altar, the faithful Israelites could no longer offer the daily sacrifices. Neither could the high priest perform the yearly cleansing of the sanctuary during the Day of Atonement. All of what is mentioned here was fulfilled between the years 167 BCE and 164 BCE, and is found in the book of Maccabees. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom. This is what he wrote, that all people should be one, and everyone should leave his laws. What? Can't do what the Most High said. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. They knew when the true Sabbath was. We don't know today, because that's been taken away from us. We lost our heritage. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple. They could no longer use the Most High's temple. And that they should profane the Sabbaths and the feast days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should what? Die. In the selfsame manner wrote he to the whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. So he made this decree throughout all the land of Israel, well, remaining part of Judah. So all the righteous people were affected by this. Israelites that didn't want to live right, they had no problem with this. But the Israelites that wanted to live right, oh, they was being faced with a dilemma. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even whosoever they could flee for succor. In other words, once that law got passed, many of the Israelites that wanted to keep the Most High's land, they had to go hide. They had to go and hide. Because if they didn't, the wicked Israelites were going to point them out. Okay. Now the 15th day of the month Chaslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar. That's when he sacrificed that pig on the altar on the 15th day of that month, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the book of the law, which they had found, they were going around tearing up scriptures. This is terrible. But you know, this is going to repeat itself. Okay? And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with any, the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put to death. So even if you were found with a scripture in your hand, and your intent was not to burn that scripture, but to preserve that scripture, then you were put to death. Thus did they, by their authority unto the Israelites every month. It was going on nonstop, to as many as were found in the cities. Now, the 25th day, which was 10 days later of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. These women just trying to obey the Most High's law. That's all they're trying to do. And they circumcised their children. But this king said, no, you ain't serving no God but my God. So I'm going to kill you on this altar. And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. There were some Israelites, in spite of all this calamity that was going on, they determined in their heart, I'm not going to violate the Most High's law. And that's the way we're going to have to be when this other new horn comes up. We're going to have to determine in our hearts that no matter what happens, no matter how long I've been living wrong, when the law changes, that I no longer have a choice to live wrong. Because now wrong becomes right. I got to live right. Okay? Wherefore, they rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. And there was great wrath in Israel. But what happened when they gave their lives? The scripture assures us that they were made what? White. Everything was wiped out. All their sins were forgiven. They were a sacrifice unto themselves. The abomination of desolation and human sacrifices. We are informed that on the 15th of Chaslu, corresponding to the month November-December, Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes made a sacrifice on an altar dedicated to the Most High, thereby establishing the abomination of desolation. He actually sacrificed a pig on that altar. In other words, he took the altar that the Levite priest used for morning and evening sacrifices made by fire in service for the Most High, and consecrated it for use in service of his God. This desecrated that altar and the sanctuary services as it related to morning and evening sacrifices. Once he performed this act of desecration on the 15th of Chaslu, 10 days later, it was then unlawful for anyone to serve any other god but the God of his kingdom. So starting from the 25th of Chaslu, certain people took women who were still following the laws of the Most High and sacrificed them on that same altar that had been desecrated by having their babies circumcised. Also, because of the decree of Antiochus, many other altars were built in honor of his God to perform sacrifices upon descendants throughout his territory. These sacrifices started and continued for as long as Antiochus IV could enforce them. It was the mercy of the Most High that set a limit on how long this would continue. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice in the vision of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. In other words, all of this be over with. The 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices. The Most High set a limit on how long human sacrifices would continue and how long this desecrated altar would stand. It was for 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices or 1,150 days, because 2 sacrifices were to be performed each day by the Levite priests. Therefore, all Levite priests were banned during this entire period from performing any daily duties under the penalty of death. Also, they could not get near this desecrated altar to destroy it, because Antiochus' army prevented them. An arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. In other words, he had an army protecting that altar, so you couldn't even get near it. He did that so that nobody could get near it to do the cleansing. It was not until the 25th of Chaslu, exactly 3 years later, that the human sacrifices ceased and the desecrated altar was removed as prophesied by the angel. These sacrifices did not cease because Antiochus IV Epiphanes changed his mind, but rather because valiant men such as Judas Asmonean Maccabee fought against him in honor of the Most High. These men fought against the Greeks and wicked Israelites who wanted to abide by Antiochus IV laws. The Most High will always have someone in his corner. Judas Hasmonean, or Judas Maccabee, was a strong leader of whom the scripture speaks, and as such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he, meaning Antiochus, corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. That's referring to Judas Maccabee. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by spoil many days. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be hoping or given support with a little help. But many shall plead to them by flatteries, and some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, to purge them, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. This time appointed ended when the 1,150 days of terror ended, when Judas Maccabean reclaimed the sanctuary and the altar to restart the daily sacrifices. Now, as concerning Judas Maccabeus and his brethren, and the purification of the great temple, and the dedication of the altar, the wars against Antiochus Epiphanes and Eurypida his son, and the manifest signs that came from heaven unto those that behave themselves manfully and to their honor for Judaism, so that being but a few, they overcame the whole country and chased barbarous multitudes, and recovered again the temple renowned all the world over, and freed the city, and upheld the laws which were gone down. The Lord being gracious unto them with all favor. All these things I say being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 books. We will say to abridge in 1 volume. Now Maccabeus and his company, the Lord guiding them, recovered the temple and the city, but the altars which the heathen had built in the open street, and also the chapels, they pulled down. And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar, and striking stones, they took fire out of them, and offered a sacrifice after 2 years, and set forth incense and lights and showbread. When that was done, they fell flat and besought the Lord that they might come no more in such troubles. But if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chastise them with mercy, that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations. Now, upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, 167, on the first same day it was cleansed, 164, even the 25th day of the month, which is Chaslu. This represented 1,150 days of 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices. And they kept the 8 days of gladness, as in the feast of Tabernacles, remembering that not long after they had held the Feast of Tabernacles, when as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts. Therefore they bare branches and fair groves, and palm also, and sang psalms unto him, and had given them good success in cleansing this place. They ordained also by a common statute and decree that every year those days should be kept in the whole nation of the Jews. And this was the end of Antiochus, called Epiphanes. Antiochus died not in battle, but from an illness he contracted, which could not be cured. Therefore, he was broken without hand, as foretold by the angel that explained the second vision to Daniel. Now, how to calculate the days of the desecrated altar. The human sacrifices lasted exactly 3 years, as prophesied by the angel. However, when doing the math, 2 of those years had to be years of 13 months. The angel prophesied that the sanctuary and altar would not be cleansed until a total of 1150 days passed. The altar was first desecrated on the 15th of Chaslu, 167, and cleansed on the 25th of Chaslu, 164, for a total of 1150 days. Since the altar was desecrated 10 days before the first human sacrifice occurred, and the human sacrifices lasted exactly 3 years, then 1150 days minus 10 days is 1000 is I meant to put 1140 days right there, or 3 years of human sacrifices. When using the accounting system, let me make sure that, let me verify something real quick. I need to change something. Let me go back here because I want to verify something, because I don't like errors in these lessons. Let me go back here and look at this math, because I just realized I had done that. Go back up one slide. See, that's supposed to be 1140 days right there, divided by 360. So in the lesson, I'm going to have to fix that to what it needs to really be. It shouldn't be 1040 right there. It should be 1150. So I'm going to fix that before I post it on the internet. All right. So divided by 30 days is equal to 38 months. The historical record of Maccabees records that from the 25th of Chaslu to the 25th of Chaslu 164 was exactly 3 years, proving 2 of those years were 13 months long, where the Aviv observance was delayed. All this information will be critical in understanding future events when investigating Daniel's first vision as it relates to another little horn that will arise to once again persecute the people of the Most High. Once the first temple was destroyed, a year went from exactly 360 days to our present 365 days, because the Aviv is being delayed certain years at the Most High's discretion. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and he spake, and he slept, and his slept went from him. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his. He changeth the times and seasons. He removed kings and setteth up kings. He divideth wisdom. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. Daniel's first vision and the little horn of the fourth kingdom. Now that we know that the second vision of Daniel was fulfilled during the kingdom of brass, then the little horn of the first kingdom, of the first vision, must be part of the kingdom of iron seen in Daniel 2. The 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. He shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hand until a times, and a dividing of time. The king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god. And he shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that which is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, a God whom his fathers do not, shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. He shall enter also into the glorious land. That's once again talking about what? Jerusalem. And many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand. Even Edom, Moab, and the chief children of Ammon. Remember, we went over Edom earlier. He's a friend of the Horites. Okay? And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. He's going to establish his temple there. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Once again, the stars of God is referring to the Israelites. And I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. That's talking about Jerusalem, in the sides of the north. And I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. This little horn of the fourth kingdom of iron has no intentions of serving the Most High or his people, but chooses rather to replace the Most High by making all people serve him. It is during this time that human sacrifices will return, and he will challenge all under his jurisdiction, worship me or die. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? Remember, a same similar question was asked in Daniel 8. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he had held up his right hand and his left hand toward heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, that it shall be for time, times and a half a time. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. So, under Daniel chapter 8, you were given a specific number, and in Daniel chapter 7, you're given a different specific number. None of these scriptures have been fulfilled to date, because it is the remaining 3.5 years of a 7-year war, mentioned in Daniel 9:27. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that make of death shall be set up, there shall be 1,290 days. This verse of Daniel needs close examination, since there are no Levite priests or temple of the Most High during this time. We do not have a temple today. And notice, it never said that that last horn was going to do anything with the Most High's temple, because there is no temple, Most High's temple in existence. But he's going to do something with the Most High's people. So by taking away the daily sacrifices without a temple, altar, or Levitical priesthood being present, means that this little horn will outlaw the scriptures of truth worldwide. It will be illegal to have a Torah, a Tanakh, or any religious book of any kind in one's person, and to follow any other religion. You will not even, not only will you not be able to have a Tanakh, a King James Version, you won't even be able to have a Quran. You won't even be able to have a Talmud. He's not even going to outlaw the true book. He's going to outlaw all religious books. So that's going to be a sign to you that something is wrong. Plus, what will that do to the people of the Most High that are in those religions? That's going to bring them out of those religions as well to stand for the truth. Because the people of the Most High that right now are following the Quran, when the Quran gets outlawed along with the Bible, what is that going to leave for them? Nothing but the truth. It will be worse than the 1150 days of Antiochus' rule and his martyring of the Most High's people. all the living will be tested and tried at this time when this next little horn appears, because many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Now, that's in Daniel 12:10. Now notice that when you give your life at that time, just like it told you in Daniel under the Antiochus, that the people who gave their lives were made white. Now it's telling you under this horn as well, when you give your life, what's going to happen? You're going to be purified and made white. All right? These were the same words that were spoken over those who were martyred under Antiochus the fourth rule. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge them and to make them white, even to the time of the end, and it is yet for the time appointed. This will be the time of Jacob's trouble that will occur before the second Exodus and the great resurrection of Ezekiel 37 that will lead us into the wilderness. Now, that'll be a future lesson there about going into the wilderness and those that will be made white. Now, I do want to put out a special note for women, because we have been deceived as to who's a woman. All right, he says, the Most High told us in the very book of Genesis, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. The little horn of the fourth beast is the seed of the serpent that will persecute the Most High's people and have a natural antipathy toward women. This is confirmed in the book of Daniel when he states, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. The Hebrew word for woman should never be confused with the Hebrew word for female. The Hebrew word for woman only applies to the daughters of Adam, Noah. All women, Isha, are females, Nekabah, but not all females are women. A female is only a woman if she or her image originated from a man. In the case of Eve, she was not spoken forth from the earth as other land creatures, but made from a part of Adam by the hands of the Creator. So she came forth from a man. And in the case of their female children, they too are a woman, because they are the offspring of a man, and a man as one flesh is both male and female. So during the time of Jacob's trouble, women will have a particularly worse, but all will be persecuted. It will be this way because of the curse that the Most High pronounced against the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Now, I'm only saying that because even in the example that what happened during the days of Antiochus, the very first people that suffered the persecution was who? Women. He put them on the altar and sacrificed them. So I'm telling you, this is a warning to the women particularly. You can live frivolous, you can live callous, you can shake your rump, you can, what they call them, thoughts or whatever, live all that way you want to, but when it's going to be time to stand on your own bottom, you're going to have to stand up. Or woman up. Okay? The Most High's ways are equal. It will be after this resurrection and while in the wilderness that all who have not been made white already will pass under the rod and will no longer suffer the sins of their fathers. The word of the Lord came unto me again, saying, what mean ye that ye use this proverb concerning the land of Israel, saying, the fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children teeth are set at edge. So what they're saying is, what the father does affects the child. If the father eats sour grapes, it's going to affect the way the children's teeth came out. And a lot of people today are mad with the Most High because they don't understand why we're being punished for something we didn't do. Right? But this proverb, you're not the first one to say that. They were saying that way back then. But the Most High is going to get the record straight. He says, I live, saith the Lord. ye shall not have an occasion anymore to use this proverb. In other words, I'm going to take those words out of y'all mouth. I heard y'all talking about me like this, and I don't like it. But I did things this way is because that's the way they had to be done. Because remember, not only is he doing you that way, he's doing the wicked that way as well. Okay? So he gonna get the record straight. He said, behold, all souls are who? Mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. And the soul that sinneth, it shall die. Yet ye say, the way of the Lord is not equal. Ain't that what people say? In other words, we're here in America right now today. I was born in America because of something my foreparents did. I didn't have nothing to do with that. So I'm mad with God and I don't want to serve him. When somebody brings that to my attention, well, why God do that to me? I had nothing to do with that. God gonna set the record straight. Yet ye say the way of the Lord is not equal. Hear now, O house of Israel, is not my way equal? Are not your ways unequal? The Most High putting a challenge on us. Therefore, I will judge you, O house of Israel, every one of you according to what? His ways. Okay, so y'all ask no longer, do I want to pay for the sins of my father? The Most High said, well, I'm going to change the game. When I resurrect you, I'm going to change the game. You're going to die for your own sin, no longer for whatever happened in the past. Somebody else did. He says, repent and turn yourselves from all your transgressions, so iniquity shall not be your ruin. Cast away from you all, not some, all your transgressions whereby ye have transgressed, and make you a new heart and a new spirit. Why will ye die, O house of Israel? So when we get resurrected, you won't be able to blame that on nobody else if you don't make it this time. You can't say the father eats sour grapes and the children's teeth are set at edge. No, you ate the sour grapes and your teeth gonna be set at edge. All right? And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and I will plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So will I plead with you, saith the Lord, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and will bring you into the bond of the covenant, and I will purge out from among you the rebels. This is after the resurrection. Anybody that get resurrected that's not been made white at this time, if you commit sins at this time in the wilderness, you ain't got to worry about what your father doing. Worry about what you do. That proverb gonna be gone. It won't apply no more. But that's another lesson. And I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me, and I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Most High, or the Lord. And may the Lord, and when in the wilderness, no one will be able to blame his ability to abide by the law on anyone else and say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. Because the Most High will no longer visit the iniquities of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. We will all be alive and judged at the same time. So he's going to take that proverb out of our mouth. So those of us alive today, mad with the Most High because of because he's holding us accountable for something our fathers did, you want to get a second chance to stand up on your own 2 feet. And what you going to do then? So the Most High is putting out a challenge. Let's get ready for this next horn that's about to appear and keep a strong relationship with the Most High. And before I close out, let's make sure I didn't leave out any information that may be needed, that I omitted. We went over the Talmud. We went over this. We went over everything. So with that being said, once again, may the Most High add a blessing to the reading of this lesson, and the hearers thereof, may you be edified. And thank you.